Hi, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome, awesome.
So, first of all, I would really like to thank you for joining in and sharing your time. I'm
Thanks so much for
really,
having me.
I'm really grateful to you for this thing. Whatever you said yes and you came to the show. So thank you for that.
Uh, no, it's an honor for me to be on the show.
So, how are you doing in your work and everything, animation?
Yeah, doing really well. I'm enjoying it like always, and hopefully making some cool animations.
Yes, I saw the animation shot. I was really amazing. That-
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, that was a fun shot. Thanks
Yes.
so much.
Would you like to share it? How you we can get on that topic later on. Let's start with
Mhm,
something related to you. How did you start your journey? Like,
mhm.
how did you start your animation journey? Was it a luck by chance or it was something from the childhood?
Right. Yeah, so I can start talking about like where my passion for animation started. When I was a kid, I always loved watching animated movies like Disney and Ghibli, all of these old school 2D animated films, and I loved them a lot, but I didn't know at that time that animation could be a job. So when I found out about that in high school, one of my friends told me that this director for this animation, he went to school to study animation, and I was like mind blown. I was like, oh my gosh, you can go to school to learn this? I need to do this. So since that time, like around 10th grade in high school, that was my goal. So I made a little, animation in high school that isn't good, but it was my first animation, and I submitted it to an art school here in Vancouver, Canada, and luckily I got in because they have an animation program. And then so I at the time I was in Germany, so I did high school in Germany, and then so I flew over to Canada, and then I studied animation. Of course, my second goal was to get into the animation industry. And originally, I studied 2D animation, so drawing and frame by frame animation, because I wanted to do more like, old school Disney drawing animations and Ghibli Japanese style animations. And then, so I did that for 2 to 3 years. But then at the end of my third year, my partner and we teamed up to make a short film. And for that short film, we wanted to combine 2D and 3D animation. And then so he taught me how to make 3D animation as well. So he basically taught me everything I know in 3D animation. And then I fell in love with that. So now I'm doing 3D animation as a job.
Great,
Yeah,
great. So you have traveled the world for learning animation.
pretty much.
One place to another. And so, where exactly are you from? What is your birthplace?
So I am actually born very close to where I live right now in Richmond, BC, also in Canada. So
Oh,
it's just south of Vancouver.
oh,
But then my mom, she's from Taiwan, and my dad is from Germany. So we lived in Germany for a while, and we lived all over the world. We also lived in Japan. We also lived in Norway. So I have luckily been able to see a lot of the world when I was a kid.
really lucky then you are.
Yeah, I know. Now that I think back, I'm very, very lucky.
So it all started with your like earlier childhood as well. Like you loved this and you wanted to know about this, and then it all started. So you are the first one I met who is being like doing from the childhood.
Oh,
Majority of the animators were like we just got to know about this thing like by chance. Like somebody told us, and
right.
we got like okay, this could just the way you told you were thinking about like is this a job or not? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
action. Like, is this really a job? Like, can we really do it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's the fun part.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was definitely I had a passion for it from when I was a kid, and as soon as I knew it was a job, like bam, that was my calling.
You are only into this technical animation, or you are into what we call like drawing and everything art.
Yeah, so I love both. I have to say, I'm not. a very proficient illustrator or drawer. So I'm not very good at drawing, but I love drawing. So I think to be, for example, to be like a Japanese animator to make anime, you need to be very, very good at drawing.
Yes.
For Western 2D animations, we usually these days you make one drawing and then you can move it around like a puppet. So you don't need to be super good at drawing anymore here in North America to do 2D animation, but it's still good to know it. And this is kind of the reason why I'm more drawn to 3D as a job, because I don't feel so confident with my drawing skills. And in 3D, it's good to know how to draw, but it's not necessary because
Yes.
we do everything with the model in computer.
So I have been watching your showreel as well. So what was the project you have worked on, like you enjoyed the most, or you really liked to animate those stuff from all of your projects, whatever you did so far?
Yeah, so I've luckily been able to work on some really big feature films, like Black Widow and Free Guy, and even a little bit on Godzilla versus Kong, but not as an animator, as a layout artist. And those are really, really fun. But for me, I think the most fun is when I get to animate creatures, so animals or like fantasy animals. Those I think are the most fun for me personally.
So how long now? Now how long it's been you are doing animation and into this animation industry as an animator?
So after I finished university, after we made this short film, luckily, I was very, very lucky that one of the students in my class, she was already in the industry and she came back to university because she didn't finish her university and thought, okay, there's only one course left. Why don't I just finish it?
Yeah.
So she asked me and a couple other of my colleagues if we want to apply to her her company. And then so I did apply and I did get in, luckily. So she helped me build my skills, and I started off in the layout department. So layout is basically it's a little bit similar to animation, but it's mostly staging. So like animatic stage where you put the camera in, make sure the characters are in the right place, that kind of thing. So I started in layout for 3 months. And then after that, I asked if I could transfer into animation because that was my dream. So again, very lucky they let me transfer into animation. And my supervisor was very supportive of me. He taught me the workflow and everything. So that's how I got into animation. And that was about 3 years ago. And then since then, I've been working in feature films, so VFX films, TV series, and now I work in games.
So, like you have not been so long, still you have so great quality of work.
Oh,
And
wow. Thank you so much.
it's
I
really
have to say,
good to see that kind of work with such a less experience. And this shows that we don't need actually experience. Experience actually doesn't directly count, but yes, you should be good at your skills from where you learn, how you learn things in the. So this shows that you learned everything in the right way from the right place.
oh, thank you so much. It's very nice. Yeah, and I have to give a big shout out to all my teachers that taught me. So I had my teachers in university who taught me animation, the basics, the all the timing and all the staging, personality and everything. And then I had an amazing mentor after university. So when I started my job, I took another course with my mentor, Eddie Chu, and he taught me very specific skills for creature animation. So everything I've learned is obviously all the best teachers taught me. So very
Yes,
grateful.
that's what. That's why I asked you how long you have been working, and I'm really surprised to hear that it's only been 3 years now, and you are
Oh,
producing so great quality of work. Like it's
wow,
really
thank you.
surprising, and yes, obviously thanks to your mentors who have taught you in the right way. So,
Mhm.
what do you think? How important is it to have a mentor or somebody teaching in the right way and guiding in the right direction? What do you think? How
Yeah.
important is it for a student to have that mentor?
I think personally, I think it's really important to have a very good mentor and teacher. I know some people, they are able to learn by themselves, like watch YouTube tutorials and all that. So that's great. For me personally, I find it hard to get feedback if I'm just watching tutorials.
Yes,
So I think it's good to have somebody look at your work from the outside, right? So sometimes we work on something for so long and
yes,
we kind of can't see it anymore. Right?
yes,
Yeah, and so when someone looks at it fresh eyes, they can see things that we can't see anymore.
yes,
And
yes,
then to get that feedback and implement it in the shot. And I think it's also very good to learn to accept feedback, because when I was younger, if anyone says something about my work, I'll be so offended. I'll be like, "Oh, you hate me? I'm so sad." But now I understand that they don't mean it in a bad way. They want you to improve, so they're
yes,
helping you. It's a good thing.
yes.
So even though like it does mean you have to change your work, it's going to become better after you change it. So I think that was the most important for me to learn, is accepting feedback, getting a new pair of eyes to look at my work, and also just to build skills faster. I think there is a certain amount I can learn from the internet, but then from someone who has experience and who can teach you hands-on, that is really valuable for me.
So what about, like, if I talk about as a beginner, if somebody needs to start as a beginner, what would you suggest them? Like, what are some pointers, maybe some checklists they should think about before getting into animation, like that?
Right. Yeah, so I think the first thing that is important for me is passion. So you have to love to do something, because animation and anything that has to do with CGI creation, it takes a lot of time and effort. If you're not passionate about it, then it's probably going to be very rough and tough. So
Yes,
if you don't enjoy it, it's not worth it, I think.
yes,
Yeah. And then the second thing is uh it doesn't have to be animation. If you love creating films, there is so many departments within films. There's modeling, texturing, if you're into more colors and everything, lighting, rendering. There's a whole bunch of different departments. If you feel like animation doesn't fit you perfectly, that's okay. You can try other things.
yes,
So I know a lot of people want to be animators, but then eventually they find out, oh, I actually like texturing more, or I like modeling more, and that's totally fine. There's no department that is more important than the other. So
yes,
everyone works together as a team. I think
yes, yes, yes.
as a beginner, to find which one fits you best is very important.
So is it important that somebody who don't have any knowledge about animation should have someone to guide, or else
Mm.
he or she should learn everything at the first sight? What do you
Mhm.
suggest? Like,
Yeah, for me personally, I think for me, I would prefer to have a teacher, a mentor, or go to a class to learn it, have someone teach me, just because learning from videos is a little bit hard for me, because they don't see your work, they can't give direct feedback.
yes,
So I would suggest people to go join a class. It doesn't have to be a university. You don't have to spend 4 years if you don't want to. There are online courses that take 6 weeks, stuff like that. So very condensed and quick learning courses and you will be able to find out soon if you like it or not. I think that's what I would suggest. But again, for everyone, it's a bit different. If you learn really well through videos, I think that is a great option too. And it's free too. So
personally, I think, is if I talk about only animation, like as an animator, if somebody
mhm.
really wants to become an animator, then it is must that you should have a mentor, because
Yeah.
there has to be somebody who can guide you, who can give you feedback. From the
Hmm.
tutorials, you can learn the tools, you can learn
Exactly.
to animate, but you don't know actually what you are animating. Is it
Right.
right? Is it wrong? Is it reliable or not?
Hmm. Yeah, totally. And I think it's also great to have the mentor, because they have industry experience. So
Yes,
they'll be able to tell you what the quality we should be aiming for, or how to accept feedback and change your shot if it needs to be changed. So I think you're correct. It is very important to have a mentor and guide you.
In your whole career till now, working on some projects, animation projects. So do you do you remember anything, or did this type of situation came when you did the shot and the director or maybe the supervisor has told you to delete the shot and do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, this happens all the time. And there's actually, so when I was working on Godzilla versus Kong, I wasn't in animation, I was in layout, but the sequence I was working on completely changed. So everything I worked on was kind of like thrown away, and then they made an entirely new sequence. So it is tough sometimes when, especially in VFX, they like to change things a lot. Usually in animation and in games, they don't change things too much, I think. But in VFX, because they have a lot of creative ideas, they want to implement it. So a lot of things change during production. So there's a few shots where I've animated something and then they said, wait, can we do it the other way around? And I'm like, okay. Then I change it and then they're like, oh, can we actually have it coming from down and then go up or something? And then, so you have to accept that this is not personal. It's not a personal attack on your animation. It's more like their vision has changed. Or within, one thing also important to keep in mind is that you're working on a sequence. So my shot is only one part of something that's happening over like 2 minutes maybe. And then maybe their idea has changed so that we need to adjust every shot to fit that. Yeah, so that's happened a lot.
So it's nothing to do with personally with the animator. It's all about the vision and the ideas which they get for the movies or the series.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to hear. So, if I ask you, like, would you like to share, like, how do you start an animation short? Suppose you see a storyboard. When you see the storyboard, then you have certain deadline, right? That this is the
Right.
timeline you have to complete the
Mhm.
short. Then, what do you think? What do you do at the first step? Then, what do you do? Like, step by step, what do you do?
Yeah, so usually I start off by doing something called blocking. That's taking the character and just roughly placing it in the right, poses and hitting the right timing. And blocking usually takes the longest. So because we have to think of blocking as the foundation of our animation, and without a strong foundation, the cleanup and everything, the house that we build on top, it's not going to look great. So we need to spend a lot of time building this foundation. So usually I'll spend about half my time that I'm given on blocking, and then I'll spend half of the remaining time on cleaning up that stuff, and then the remaining time I'll do all the overlap and everything, so like ears or tails or whatever, or fingers, that kind of stuff. So
And
yeah.
the referencing thing, like the references, sometimes you don't have something to shoot. Like, do you do
Right.
acting shots as like? Do you do acting by yourself as well?
Right. So usually within the first half, so when I'm doing the blocking, I'll look for references. I don't do that much acting myself. Mostly I animate creatures. So I'll look for creature references on YouTube, or, like photos, images. And because sometimes they're not realistic, I'll try to find some animals that look similar and then kind of mix and match to them. So right now, for example, I'm animating a big prehistoric bird, for example. Then I will look for ostrich, I'll look for dinosaur animation and kind of try to mix them together. That's most of my reference workflow.
So you are more into the VFX animation. That is what you really love, creatures and everything.
Yeah, I definitely love creatures. And it doesn't have to be VFX. Like right now, I'm working in games and also doing creatures, and I love it a lot. It's just in VFX, you get the really beautiful final details in the render. You get the skin simulation and everything. That stuff is really beautiful, which we can't do in games, obviously, but the animation itself stays the same. So for me as an animator, the process is still the same and just as fun.
Process is the same, but when you see a VFX output, then you really feel good about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
The rendered output is really good, better than the gaming and this thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, actually, I can share a little bit of maybe I can share a little bit of like the references and the blocking and stuff of my animation.
Yes,
Would that be helpful?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me quickly let me mute this. Ooh. Okay, let me find a clip. So this one I'll share is from the shot I made. So it's not an industry shot, but it's my personal shot. But I'll present it as if I was working for a company, for example.
Yes, this is the one I love about, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like you said, in the beginning, you might get like a storyboard or animatic, something that looks like this.
So this is what you did. The storyboard also, you did the storyboard?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So when I got the initial idea, so Che, he commissioned this shot, and he was saying like he made this character, he wants to show off some of the muscle and skin simulation on it, and then so we decided to make a really cool chase sequence with the two characters. And then so my mentor Eddie Chu and we worked together to create a cool sequence, and then I drew it with as an animatic. Like it's not a great animatic, but at least it gets the idea across.
Yes.
And then so for example, this would be called oh sorry, I need to like look through the video. This would be called the blocking, for example. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like it's not very clean, but at least you have the speed and you get the idea of the shot. And then usually I like to look at my animations from perspective view as well, just because sometimes things don't move quite right in perspective, but it looks good in camera. And I want to make sure it kind of makes sense in perspective as well, even though camera is the most important in the end. And then there's a lot of like adjusting to do. So for example, this would be one example where I had an animation, but then the client would give me feedback and say, I don't like the way it runs, or I want it to be a bit faster or a bit slower. So this is when I would change my shot. And again, this is not a personal attack. It's more just a vision has changed. So it's very good feedback. So this is why I changed the run cycle and I changed the speed of the shot. And then, eventually I'll go and then do more tweaking. So here, for example, I'm animating the ears. That'll be the final step where I add the ears and the toes and all that. And then at the end, it becomes the final shot that I had in the beginning. Yeah.
If we could play the whole thing at once so that we can have a look as well, like how did you do?
Absolutely.
If we can discuss in detail, it would be really great. Like if you would like to share some things related to this shot, some challenges or maybe some things, few points which could be helpful for others as well. Like we can talk about a little bit in detail about this shot.
Okay, sure. Should I play the video, just the whole thing, and I'll just talk over it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, sure. Let me share. Okay, so yeah, so this was what I call the prehistoric chase shot, and this was commissioned by Che Johansson. He is a CFX artist, I believe. Oop, don't need to see this. And so basically he made this model of this prehistoric bird that he wanted to simulate muscle and skin for. And so obviously he needed animation to do that. So luckily, I was able to do the animation for it, which I'm very happy I had the chance to do that. And then, so I first created this rough animatic, and I'm looking for references. So you can see all these videos are references that I was looking for to help create the sense of speed in the shot. Here I'm showing how I analyze references. So usually I find references and I don't just look at them. I want to really observe and learn from them. So here specifically, I can see that birds, when they land their feet, they go like this, like that. And then humans, when we land our feet, it goes like this. So it's very different. And this is what I think is really important about reference. We will see things that we never see in our imagination. So I think it's very important to look at references. And then, of course, the first step is to make the run cycle because it's a chase sequence. And then, like you can see here, I made different versions because the first version of animation isn't always the best version. Often you make iteration and it'll get better and better and better. So I'm not afraid anymore to make more than one version. I used to be really scared. I used to always make one version and I'm like, that's it. But now I know like it's important to make more versions just to see how good it can become. One of the challenges I think that can be a little bit frustrating for animators is a lot of times the character will change a little bit. So sometimes they will change the design a little bit or change the rigging a little bit. And then so the thing you animated looks different when you update the rig. So this happened a few times in this sequence where I was animating with the original rig and I liked it a lot, but then something had to change because the vision changed. So then when I put the new animation, put the new model onto the animation, it looks a bit different. But again, that's just something that we have to learn to work with. Usually making a film or a shot is a work in progress for all departments. So everyone's working together and working at the same time. So we just have to make room for changes for all departments. So in animation, we have to accept that sometimes the rig and the model will change, which is completely fine. And so here, this is the blocking. This is just very rough animation, trying to get the speed, the timing. And something that I used to have trouble with is starting rough and then going cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. I used to think, okay, from the very beginning, I have to make it perfect, which it's a good practice to make something really fast, really dirty, really, rough. And then getting feedback, implementing it, and then making it cleaner as time goes on. I think this is a good workflow because then you don't get too attached to your animation too quickly, and you get to implement a lot of feedback and learn along the way. And here I'm doing camera setup. So usually in VFX, you have a layout department who will set up the camera for you, and then you work on the creature itself. But then sometimes you also have to do the camera yourself as an animator, or sometimes what the layout artist gives you doesn't match exactly what your animation vision is, so you can change it. So here I'm just showing my camera setup. So I like to use a camera that has an aim. So it's constrained to where the camera is looking. So I can put that onto the character, and then the camera itself that is moving. It's just a little bit easier to track what is happening. And here I'm showing all the different references I use for the shot. So again, I'm collecting references and I'm trying to observe what is happening. Sorry, if I'm talking too much or this is not interesting, let me know.
But it is like the output is really great. Like whatever references you collected, lot of references, like so many different kind of references I see. Some birds, some other animals, some other creatures. So from all the references, you took something from every reference.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also for me personally, it's important that it's a mix between real animals and then also other animated creatures. I don't want to look only at other animations because I want to see, like, when you look at real life references, there'll still be some things that you didn't see in animation yet.
Yes.
So it's good to mix and match a little bit.
So this camera also, you like, basically this is a shot which you did from 0 to 100. Everything is done by you, right? From
Exactly, yeah.
scratch.
Yeah, except for the character models and the rigs,
Yes,
of
yes.
course. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So I was lucky again that I was allowed, I had so much creative freedom for myself. So I had I had the help of my mentor, of course, Eddie. He and we made the sequence together, we block it out, and he gave me amazing feedback. The shot wouldn't be this good without him. He really helped me upgrade my animation to the next level. And again, getting a second pair of eyes on the animation is really important for me, because sometimes, like I said, when you worked on it for so long, you can't really see if it's good or not anymore.
Yes.
Mhm.
So how long did you take to finish this off from
Oh
the
yeah,
beginning?
yeah, this actually took quite a while. I would say at least 6 weeks. Like probably longer, but it took a long time. I did work on this next to my real job though. So this was a side project. So I only work on it on weekends, for example. So it took a while. But again, if you can take the time, I think it's always good to take the time to really make things look good. And like if you're not in a rush, it's a really good opportunity to learn new things in the animation. And something that often in my job I'm not allowed to do is spend too much time on something. So at my job I'm trying to just like, do what I know, try to get it done as fast as possible. And then when I'm doing personal projects like this one, I get to take the time and really learn something new that I can use then for my job. So that was really cool.
Yes. Because when you have, what I feel is, when we are in a hurry, then we actually don't think too much about whatever we do, and we just
Mm,
give it a shot that yes, I have to finish it and just let it go. And we actually
yeah,
don't think in the right way when we are.
right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And we always just stick to the same formula that we
Yes,
know.
yes. So if you have
Mhm.
something in the layout or something in the storyboard, then we think that why to use our brains? Just do it
Yeah.
and finish it off.
Exactly. Yeah, so I was really happy in this shot. I was able to, take the time, slow down a little bit, really think about something, and not be too stressed about the time. Luckily, I didn't have a real deadline for it, so I just worked as hard and as smart as I could, learn as much as I can on the way. Yeah, and here it's this is like pretty much the body animation is finished. And then after the body animation is finished, I'm adding the secondary actions. So I always make sure that my primary action, so my body and everything, is perfect before adding these. Because as soon as the body changes, of course, everything else changes. The ears have to move in a different way.
So
So yeah, that's
you did it step by step, like you take it a one chunk and animate it, or you do it the whole scene at one go, like everything blocked out, then you keep on refining something
Mhm.
for the whole shot. Do you do that way, or you take it like, I'll do only 50 frames at the,
Right.
like in that manner?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a mix and match, I think, for me. Usually I'll when it's in the blocking stage, I'll do like I'll say like, okay, these 50 frames, I'll finish those first blocking and then move on. And then when it comes to more detailed things, for example, like the ears, I'll finish one ear for all the whole shot, and then the other ear for the whole shot. So I think it's a little bit of a mix and match between the two workflows.
So in this shot, muscles have been used, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is actually what Che has been doing. Che and Stacy, they worked on the muscle. So for the animation, they gave me the creature the way it looks, but then what the information they actually take is the skeletons. And then they'll put the muscle on top and the skin on top. So it looks like the character again, but everything is simulated. So everything moves a little bit. I think one thing I could have done better in this shot is help uh, help illustrate the muscle motion. So because it's such a fast running sequence, you can't really see the muscle jiggle too much. So it's not very good to show off the muscles, but yeah, so that's one thing I would say that I could have done better to make a little bit slower shot so that everyone can see the muscle a bit more.
But this is interesting. Actually, this is interesting because of the speed.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, I think it's definitely for my job. So this is Stacy. He also worked on the skin. Ben, he did the audio. This is Eddie, my mentor, who helped me with animation. And I think this is Nick Gall. He did the models of the rat and the bird. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Nice to see what you did personal. It is really difficult to do something for ourselves because
Yeah.
when you have a job, then you have certain responsibilities to finish it off. And when you do something for yourself, then you have to get that commitment.
Exactly. Yeah, I think commitment is the biggest word. Yeah, yeah, especially because after your job, after your work is like you're tired and you're like, oh, I don't have to do this. I'm it's just my personal project. So, and then nobody's really looking out for you to do it. So it's hard to find the motivation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
But you can do it.
yes, sometimes we feel like, okay, I don't have time, and we just keep on giving excuses, or that happens.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's if you can just spend a little bit of time every day, just and go step by step, you'll get a little bit closer to your goal. So even you don't have to do everything all in one, in 1 month, for example. You can take your time. It's your personal project, and it will help. I think my personal projects have helped me grow my portfolio a lot more than my work projects have. Awesome. I don't know if this is useful for anyone, but I was thinking maybe I can share some of my very early animations to motivate people that you don't have to start off great.
Yes, that is required.
Okay.
That is required.
Okay, so this is everybody. This is my first animation. Okay, it's not good, but I'm just showing it to show you that even without great animation, you can improve, right? You can always learn more and get better at whatever you want to do. So this is my very first animation that I did in high school with my friend, and I did it with a free software that isn't made for animation, and it was so as you can see that I put a lot of effort into it, and it took so long, and I didn't realize that animation takes so long. So let me actually mute this. And you can see like it's very janky. The drawings are not that good. The walk cycle is horrible. Everything kind of sucks. But I think when you're in high school, when you're in university, you can do this kind of thing. You play around, see what your passion is, and just try to make something cool. And later you'll look at it and think like, oh my God, what did I do? But also I'm kind of proud that I did this, that I spent so much time and effort in this, even though it kind of doesn't look great. And I didn't even finish it, so.
So this was 2D, right? You did it through sketching.
Yeah, exactly. So this one, I did it in a program called Sketchbook Pro. It's more of a drawing software. but it has animation capability. It's not perfect for animation, but as a free software, it's okay.
Yes.
Today, I would suggest Blender. Blender is a free software where you can do 3D and 2D animation.
Yes.
So if you're able to learn Blender, that is optimal, I think. This
Software
gives me
should
so
not
much pain.
have a matter, right?
Sorry?
That I believe as well. Like a student should not be restricted to a software. It should be more on to what actually he wants to learn. Like if it is modeling, then he should be good at the skills, like modeling skills, not at the software. What I
Yeah.
see is students, beginners especially, get stuck with softwares. Like I'm doing this, I only know animation in this software, and I only know animation or modeling in this software. This
Right.
not it should be.
Yeah, I think like for animators specifically, it's important to know the animation principles. And when you know the animation principles, you should be able to use that for all different kind of softwares. So I think luckily in animation, there's not too much software knowledge you need to know. So I can, for example, jump between Blender and Maya, and it should be very seamless. And then for modeling, for example, if you understand shape, form, and great design, you should be able to model in all different softwares. But again, you can have your favorite. That's okay.
Yes. So especially beginners have, like, I don't know about other countries, but especially in India, if I see, then students actually don't have the right source. They actually don't know what exactly animation is. And
Right.
when they finish off their courses, then if you ask them, yes, there are 12 principles that everybody knows. But how to implement those principles and how to get something good out of it as a final output, so that you can call it as an animation or maybe some personal work, whatever it is. But that should be believable. Yes, it is.
Right.
It is 100% that way, that as a beginner you would not be able to produce good quality. That is for sure. But then you should know the right way, right direction, that this is something I should learn in this way.
Right. Yeah, I think it's also good to remember that the principles, they're just basic rules. And these rules are made to help you develop your skills. But again, we are artists, right? Usually we want to make something that looks good for ourselves and for others. So these rules don't mean anything if they doesn't make your animation look good. So usually when I'm working on animation, I don't think like every single 12 principle, I need to go through all of them and remember them. And so usually I just make something and I hope it looks good. And in the back of my mind, I am remembering these principles, but most important is that the shot itself looks good. And I think practice is really important for this. So a lot of times I think for me as a beginner, when I started, all of my animation was like, I need to make so many things happen all the time, but that's really confusing. But without making this animation, I won't realize later, oh, I made too many things happen at the same time. So I'll learn from that. The next animation I make sure that the staging is right, that only one person is talking and moving, then the other person is talking and moving. So I learned through doing something. So I made a lot of mistakes and then I learned from them. And that's okay, because as a beginner, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make mistakes and learn from them. And there luckily isn't too much pressure. For example, when I was in university, there wasn't very much pressure for me to make something perfect for the very first time. So for example, I can go through some of my early works and kind of show the development. So if I go back to this is an animation I made in third year of my university with my friend Randy. And so I did mostly So I did this shot here, and you can see that a lot of things are happening at the same time, and it's very hard to see everything that's happening. So this is after I made this, I learned how important staging and timing is. And so, of course, the very first time I tried this with this shot, it wasn't that great. And then here I'm trying out, like, I'm trying to make a Tex Avery style animation. I don't know if it worked out that well or not.
What was your first 3D animation shot?
Oh, let me show you. So that was 2D animation, and then my 3D animation starts a bit later here. So very first, of course, everyone learns how to make a bouncing ball, right?
Yes.
So, which is important to learn because then you get to learn a little bit of the software and a little bit about how things move. So I made a bouncing ball, and then I tried to make something really heavy. So this is a bowling ball. And then the next one, I tried to make something really light, which is a ping pong ball. And this just helped me understand how different things can move depending on their weight and their size. And so very boring, very first animation. And then I have this flour sack animation. So in 3D, usually to start to learn, you want to learn with simple characters. Like the flour sack is very simple. The reason is because we don't want to be distracted by facial expressions and fingers and everything. We want to focus on making sure the main motion is working well. And after we learn how to do the main motion in 3D, we can learn how to add facial expressions and fingers and secondary, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then I have these, and then I moved on from doing flour sack to more characters. It's a very short shot, just someone hitting the baseball. Yeah, that was basically how my 3D animation started. And then eventually it went to more complex characters. And you can see that the animation is there, but there's a lot of things still missing, like weight and personality and everything. So at this point, I'm still learning a lot of things about 3D animation. Yeah, and then eventually I used my skills together with my partner to make a short film. So this short film was, actually have it here. So this one was a mix between 2D and 3D animation. So you can see that I combined my passion for 2D Japanese animation style with later on it'll become 3D animation. So for example, if I skip ahead here, this is still 2D hand drawn in the computer, and then after he finished turning, it turns into a 3D world. So then I continued in 3D animation with this. So I was very proud of this project because and I still am, because we were able to combine two different styles, and we were still students at this time. And this is the project that we showed to the school after we graduated. So that was very fun. Yeah, and yeah, I think that I don't know if I want to show if you want to see the whole film or not.
Like as a student, this is really good.
Wow, thank you so much.
Because students generally, like, I don't know about outside, but yes, obviously you learn from right people. You were able to do these things at that early level, because
Wow, thanks.
the students really face difficulty in understanding these things, like this breathing and standing, even while keeping it still. Like this shot, if I talk about this slow motion, they don't understand what exactly is slow motion.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think one thing that is important too is that everybody finds the style that they like. So, for example, in this short film, we're going for like a game cinematic style. So my partner and I, we watched a lot of game cinematics, and we took and we took ideas from those game cinematics. So something that is important is when you're looking at other work of arts and you take ideas, it's not called stealing, it's called inspiration, right? So a lot of times we want to make everything from our own minds, and it's our own creation. And sometimes we just have to remember that all the big masters, all the great animators, and all the great painters in the past, they always used inspiration, and they also used references. So it's nothing that we need to be scared of, to also be inspired and take references from other artists. Of course, we cannot copy other people's art. We can't copy animation frame by frame.
It
But
is
we can. Sorry.
it is not at all possible to copy frame by frame.
Yeah, and it loses its originality when you copy someone's work, right? So it's always important to make it your own, but taking inspiration and taking reference, it's a good thing, I think, and not something to be scared of. And yeah, I think this project, it's one of my proudest projects, even though it's not the best quality project. It still makes me really happy to see it, because this was something that my partner and I, we both directed together, and we both made it from 0 to 100 all by ourselves, with, of course, with the help of, for example, smoke artists. So for example, the effects in the back, the smoke is rendered by somebody else, and some of the models are made by someone else. So the temple model is made by someone else, but the main story and the main film was made by my partner and I. So it makes me very proud that we were able to do that, and it was a really fun experience.
This is really great. Like, I'm really surprised and happy as well that as a beginner you were able to do such good things, like such a good
Wow.
work in animation.
Wow, thanks so much. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
So this is something personal I'm asking you, like, what made you come to this show? Like, what did you think when I asked you about this? Then what is that one thing, or what is that something which got connected to you that you felt like, yes, I should go here and I should share some knowledge?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for reaching out to me and asking me to join the show. That was, I'm always honored, for you to ask me to be on the show. And I think it's just, I love to share my passion for animation. I love to help younger people, like, with passion for animation, help them, grow their skills. So I make some tutorials on YouTube and share my work there. And sorry, are you hearing my computer doing a lot of noise, or is it okay for you?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. And I love to, share my passion. And I actually recently did a video with a friend of mine who also has a YouTube channel, and so many of his fans were really happy to hear about the industry and how to get into the industry. So I thought, the more I can share my experience as a little bit newer artist, like, share my experience and help others, get into the industry. I think that's really important for me, and help motivate people, because I think a lot of times in other places, so in North America, being an animator is a good thing. You earn a lot of money, or not a lot, but you earn money and you can make a living. And I think in some countries, being an animator or being an artist is, it's not great. Parents might think, like, you want to be an artist? How are you going to survive? Are you going to make money? And, like, it's not, obviously people are like, oh, I want my son to be a doctor, or, a lawyer or whatever. And I just want to help share my experience and help parents see that if your kid wants to be an animator, you can make a living, and it's something that is driven by your passion. And I think it's good to share.
Yes, because in India this happens a lot. Like, parents think, like, what, you want to become an artist? Or you want to become an animator? How you're going to survive? Like, this happened with me when I started my animation career.
Oh no.
And they were like, why are you going into animation? You will have to
Right.
work so much for long hours and you will have to
Right.
spend the nights doing these things. And so when
Mhm.
I started, I was not getting paid as well. When I started my,
Oh,
so I was like, no, I have to do it. I have to do it. And that's
right.
how I
Oh
started.
man.
Because
Mhm.
that's what I said, that you learn from the right place. That's why you
Mhm.
were able to do these things in such a shorter period of time. So in my
Right.
case, I was not even at the level of basics when I
Oh
completed
wow.
the learning and everything. So after
Right.
investing as well, after
Mhm.
investing money, then
Mhm.
at the end you spend 3 to 4 years, and then you realize that you did not even learn the basics really well.
Right.
So that's when you get a little bit depressed as well. Like, why did I choose this,
Right.
or why did
Oh.
I do that? So that's
Mhm.
when I decided, like, when I become a animator, like, not the best animator, but better version of myself,
Mhm.
then I would help the other beginners who would not go into this struggle which I faced,
Right.
or some other artists who were there with me all those.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. It's good to share our mistakes so other people don't do the same mistakes.
Yes, yes. So that's why
Mhm.
I tell students that it is not necessary to learn everything, like modeling,
Mhm.
lecturing, and everything. If you
Right.
are fine, like if you already know that you want to become an animator,
Mhm.
then there is no point in learning everything. Like, obviously, you can learn it
Exactly.
for yourself, like
Mhm.
for your whatever, if you like it or if you want to
Mhm.
know how those things work. But then,
Right.
as a career perspective, you should be focusing on one particular department so that you
Mhm.
can learn those things and get deeper into that specific thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And of course you can learn other things and keep it as a hobby, like you said. But
Yes,
then in the industry, most departments are separated. So you specialize in one thing. So it's not necessary to know everything.
yes.
Yeah, just like you said.
So what about, like, what according to you, how is the animation industry?
How is it? Yeah, so I think in North America, it's probably different than in India. So in North America, the industry is like it's like well paid, not very well paid, but it's good money and it's also very pretty fair. So there's a lot of opportunities for all kinds of different artists, and also there's more and more diversity coming into the industry, so more women, more people of color, different, all sorts of things are coming together. So I think it's a good industry to be in. But of course, depending on the studio, some studios have better reputation and some don't have a great reputation. And sometimes, depending on your job, you might need to do a lot more hours, so overtime.
Mm.
But one good thing about North America is that if you do overtime, you get paid more if you do more hours. So I think, unfortunately, some countries they don't do this. So I think in Europe they don't do this. I'm sure in Asia they don't do this either. So if you work overtime, they still only pay you 8 hours. So
Like,
that I
here it
think,
is not about the hours, here it is all about your deadline. If you get
right.
deadlines, you can finish it off, then you can leave. Like,
Oh, right.
the way it is.
Yeah. So I think, I think I'm very lucky that I'm here in North America, where
Yes.
if the company wants you to stay longer, they have to pay for it. So usually they don't want you to stay so long because
Yes.
they don't want to spend extra. Yeah. So come to Canada, come to the US if you want to work in animation.
So
Um,
currently, where have you been working? Currently, where are you working? And
mhm. Yeah, so currently I'm working for Sanzaro Games. It's a games company that works for Meta, or it's owned by Meta, so Facebook. And it's to make VR games for their Oculus headsets.
oh,
And yeah, so it's really fun. And the studio is actually located in the US, but luckily I'm able to work from Canada, so I don't have to move over to the US. But I could if I wanted to. And yeah, that's where I'm
so
working
you're
right now.
working from home currently.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's good. Like you are with your family as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have to like, spend time traveling to work and home from work every day.
What do you think that there are certain kind of mistakes which beginners make that they can prevent? Like if you would like to give some
Hmm,
suggestions.
right. I think um I don't really know like what kind of mistakes are made. I guess one thing is for beginners is don't be afraid of the industry. If you're just starting, people will know that you are a beginner. And if you ask a lot of questions and you reach out for help, that's completely okay. And you should do that because you're still in your learning phase, and people expect that you don't know everything, right? They don't expect you to know everything from the very start. So when you're starting off, don't be afraid to ask questions and to learn more. Um, I think that's something we're always, when we are new to something, we're always scared to ask questions because we don't want people to think that we're not good enough or whatever. But it's completely normal. And if you don't know these things later on in your career, then people will wonder like, why didn't you ask earlier, right? So always ask first. And usually people are happy to help. At least from my experience, anyone I've asked for help, they've always been happy to help me learn. And then another thing is don't be afraid of feedback. Like I said earlier, it's a good thing. They're trying to help you. So even though feedback is hard to accept, for me personally, when I started, I learned to accept it, and now it's part of my job. Just like daily routine, just I get feedback, and I know it's a positive thing, just to help me improve. And also, the reason they give feedback is because they know you can make it better. If they don't give feedback, it might mean that they don't trust that you can make it any better. So it's a good thing. Don't be scared of feedback.
Yes. If you
Yeah.
if somebody really don't get feedback, then they should move on with the tutorials rather than
Right.
meet person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Good to move
Exactly.
with the tutorial so that you can at least go back and forth on the same thing which you don't
Right.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because anyways that
Right.
guy is not going to help you anymore.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the thing. And I feel like you have been really a good person. That's why this is what I feel now, that when you are good, then you attract good things in your life. And that is
Right.
how you mentioned that in your experience, you did not find anybody who did not help you because you
Hmm.
were a good personality. That is why people came to you in the right way. The right people came to you and
Oh yeah.
surrounded yourself with the right things.
That's
That's
very
how it
sweet.
happens.
Yeah, thanks. That's very sweet of you. And I think that is really true too. One thing we can't forget is how tightly connected the industry is. So if you make a good impression, people will know and they will tell their friends in other companies that you did a really good job, and your name will be passed between different companies, right? So if you make a bad impression, they will also tell people, and then other companies will know not to hire you or anything. So it's always good to make good friends because unfortunately, a little bit unfortunately, the way you get hired into companies usually is through referrals. So for example, your friend or your colleague, your supervisor worked with you before, they moved to a new company, and then they suggest you to move to this new company too. So usually it's through referrals. So if you keep a good image, people will always want to work with you. And then of course, the same thing goes if you have a bad image, people don't want to work with you. And so it's always good to stay friends. And you never know if you're working with working with someone and he's your colleague, who knows if he's going to become, supervisor in another company and want to hire you into it. So yeah, so that's I think really important.
This is I really did not know earlier when I was into this into a job and everything. So
Hmm.
when I found like I was really struggling in animation as well, like I
Hmm.
did not know at a phase that what do I really want to do? Like this is
Hmm.
what do I really want to do? Then I found my
Right.
mentor and he guided me that this is how it works. And that's how I
Right.
came to know that your thoughts matter a lot in surrounding the
Hmm.
right people with you. So if
Right.
you think in a negative way, even if you are a good person, but
Hmm.
you are thinking all the time in the negative way and you are telling yourself certain things which you should not repeat. So
Mhm.
then you surround yourself with that kind of people, and
Right.
at the end you feel like I am good, and why people are taking me in the wrong way, because it is
Right.
because in your mind you are giving directions in the wrong way.
Mhm.
Things are
Right,
happening
exactly.
that way. So that is how I
Mhm.
learned that thing from my mentor. And obviously, animation is what I learned gradually while working. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
not a good animator as you are,
No, don't say
but
that.
you are really a great animator. But I,
Wow, thank you so
helping
much.
students, I am more into helping people. That is what really makes
Mhm.
me happy, and that is what I'm
Yeah.
really passionate about. Helping people and giving them some direction, which is like
Mhm.
so that they don't waste their time. And so I think like if I'm good into at least they are at a beginner level, and I have been through that path. So even if I'm not a great animator, but then yes, I know certain things which they don't.
Mhm.
So maybe I can help them in a way that they can fast track their growth. The way
Yeah,
you did,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
you achieved this quality in just 3 years. So the
Oh.
same way, I think like if somebody can actually direct the students in the right way, then everybody can become such a good animator in such a short period of time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the work that you do is really, really important because I think sometimes when you want to be an animator, but you can't find the right resources, you can't find the right information, it
Yes.
can be hard and you'll get stuck. So when you're helping, you're gathering information, you're sharing information, and you're helping people find this information, and it'll help them, like you say, fast track their growth, learn quickly how to focus on one thing, and I think it's really important to share this information. Just like, if a student is looking to do this, like for example, when I was in high school, I didn't know that this is a job. But now if I look on YouTube and see your channel, I can find out, oh, this is really a job, and I'll find that out sooner, and more high school students can find that out, and start learning earlier and faster. I think
Yes.
it's really great.
Anything else you would like to share or suggest or whatever from your end, if you like to share something from your end?
Um, not necessarily. I guess follow your dreams and your passion. If you love to do it, you can do it. And even if you think you're not as good as somebody else, you're comparing yourself to someone else. That's not that's not the point of animation. It's to create something cool and always improve yourself. And again, like animation is a team sport, right? In the industry, everyone works together to make something cool,
Yes.
and it's not about, you're not worse than anybody. You're putting the same amount of effort in, and you're trying just as hard as your friend,
Mm.
and so the effort is matched equally. So even if you feel like you're not as good, everyone feels like they're not as good as someone else. So don't even worry about it.
No, I'm not worrying about that. But yes, when I see your work, then I really appreciate it. The way you did in such a short time, the things you are doing, that is really
Mhm. Oh, thanks so much. It
yes.
means a lot to me.
And I would be sharing this episode with you as well, so you can also share it
Oh
on your
yeah.
channel, or maybe from for to all your surroundings as well, so that if somebody is coming to you, or some other students who are new into the animation from your country as well, so that this
Hmm.
will help them as well, like for
Yeah, yeah,
understanding.
absolutely. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks so much.
So thank you so much for connecting. You are really excited about this. Yes, from the very beginning, you are really excited and happy, and that you have shared this positive energy with me, and I'm also really happy talking to you and
Oh, thank you so
sharing
much.
everything. So thank you so much for joining in.
No, thank you so much for having me again. It's been an honor. And I can't wait to see future episodes.
Yes, yes, definitely. Am I spelling it correct? Like your name is Alicia Steinberger, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. That was perfect.
So thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much. And
Alicia.
yours is Naresh? Is that how you say it?
Yes, Naresh Chaudhary.
Naresh.
So it's an Indian name. You might find it real. Sometimes it will be difficult to pronounce,
Right.
but it's fine.
Okay. Naresh Chaudhary. Ooh.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
No
okay.
issues.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful
No, thank you.
to you. Thank you so much. And definitely we'll do some episodes later and we can focus on certain topics so that we can discuss certain things, maybe some acting or maybe some creature animation, whatever
Right,
we can
yeah.
discuss those things, and we can have some small episodes or certain small clips which can help.
Absolutely, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch and do
Yes,
something
yes,
cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you and have a good day.
Thanks, you too. You have a good night.
Yes.
Thanks, bye.
Bye bye. Take care.
You too.